I had to be able to center myself and be present with them, look at them in the eyeballs and help them to understand that I am here for them. And just as I am here for them, God, more importantly, God is here for them, and that He is in every moment of their lives, even in their learning of their math lesson. Okay, if you are like me, then you never set out to homeschool. Like me, you just wanted what was best for your kids and your family. And somewhere along the way, when my homeschooling journey started 11 years ago, I realized that God was teaching me just as much as He was teaching my children. And after 11 years of a lot of trial and error, grace upon grace, and more read alouds and meltdowns than I can count, I can honestly say that homeschooling has helped me grow in my faith, refined my motherhood, and helped me understand God's love in more ways than I could have ever imagined. So today I want to share 3 soul-shaping lessons that I have learned through the course of these 11 years of homeschooling. These are lessons that whether you are a homeschooling mom or not, they will apply to any and every mom out there, especially if you have a heart to be used by God in the most immaculate way in the lives of your children. That's today on the Mama Disciple podcast. Welcome to the Mama Disciple podcast. I'm your host, Rihanna Sanford. I'm a homeschooling and special needs mom, a health advocate, and most importantly, a fellow disciple and sister in Christ. My heart is to help you better steward your roles as mamas, your health, and most importantly, your walk with the Lord. So let's dive right in to today's topic of what I have learned these last 11 years of homeschooling. I will preface this with a little bit of a celebration because last week we graduated our last homeschool student, our baby, the last of the Mohicans. So I am officially in retirement. And I am going to have to start saying in my intro, I'm a former homeschooling mom because that's what I am now. I am no longer homeschooling and I'm entering into a new season. Y'all pray for me because that is something that is uncharted territory for me as I have been homeschooling for a decade plus. And so I'm excited for what God has in store for my husband and I both, but obviously has in store for our children who are all adult children now. So I will be able to bring to you some trial and error lessons also as a mom of adult children. So I'm excited for that. But when I was reflecting, taking some time to reflect, what are the most rewarding and fulfilling lessons that I have learned as a result of homeschooling over these last 11 years? So yes, we started homeschooling back in 2014. My 2 boys were going into the 2nd and the 4th grade. And even though it was something I did not want to do at all, I knew that God was calling us to this challenge of homeschooling and educating our children at home. So I said yes and really just opened my heart and my arms to, in surrender to whatever it is that God would desire to help me to learn as I'm helping to educate my children. And y'all, I'm just telling you, stay tuned for all 3 of these lessons because these are things that I never would have imagined in a million years I would be able to have gained as a result of saying yes to educating our children at home. So let's get started with that first lesson, soul-shaping lesson that I have learned. Number 1, it taught me to be present, not just productive. Now, this is difficult for someone like me who is a type A. I tend to be that person that likes to jot down all the to-do lists, all the check boxes, color-coded schedules, and all of those, all that type of thing. And I really did have to learn how to just be present in the moment with each one of my children during these days of homeschooling. Many, many days, right? Many, many days of homeschooling. If I'm honest, it was completely and totally uncomfortable at first because I'm thinking, I got to get this done. We got to get this done. And we got to get, just trying to get to the next assignment, the next chapter, right? The next lesson. And And I had to keep like force myself to slow down and work at a pace that was going to be effective for my children and effective for my psyche. Okay. It forced me to look into the eyes of my children. All right. And take a moment to have a heartfelt conversation with them when they were feeling emotional about a lesson or when they really just weren't getting it and it was just frustrating them. I had to be able to center myself and be present with them, look at them in the eyeballs and help them to understand that I am here for them. And just as I am here for them, more importantly, God is here for them and that He is in every moment of their lives, even in their learning of their math lesson, right? Their arithmetic, this language arts, writing these oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many how many outlines we've written for all the different papers. But those are things that I had to learn how to allow God to use me in each moment and really be present with my children, even if it meant we had to put a pause on the productivity for that day. So essentially what I'm saying to you is that God has used homeschooling to teach me that presence and patience really is more powerful than productivity. And there's a verse that I want to share with you, and it's it's a heartfelt verse. It really does help us to really understand how important it is to be present because we don't have, and I've said this to you guys before, this time that you have with your children during these formative years, you don't get this time back, right? That's one of the big, huge values of saying yes to homeschooling is that we get to take advantage of every moment that we have with our children before they go off and leave our home and go into the world. The scripture is Psalms 90, verse 12. And it says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And motherhood is truly sacred time with your children. And homeschooling has really taught me to lean into those moments that matter most. And these are eternal moments, right? These are moments that will make a difference eternally for our children. So, lesson number 2. I'm laughing at this one because it's comical to me now in hindsight after 11 years. Okay, so lesson 2. It has taught me that I am more capable than I ever thought or imagined. It's less about my capability and my competence and more about how God has graced me through every day of homeschooling. I have joked in the past about how I um we were successful. We've been successful in homeschooling because I'm not in jail and my children are still alive. So trust me, I have been there. If you thought that you were not patient enough, that you were not smart enough even to be able to homeschool your children, trust me, I have been there. And I've talked to so many moms who've said the same thing and find themselves homeschooling. And yet somehow they are having, um, not to say that it's perfect every day, but they are having some really, like I said, awarding and fulfilling moments and days and experiences with their children, even though we were people, most of us never thought it was something we ever wanted to do or thought that we could do. I don't have enough patience. I'm not smart enough. Those are the things that I was telling myself. Myself, I speak for myself a lot. Okay. A lot of self doubt. But again, it comes back to allowing God to put his super on your natural and letting him and his grace work through you so that you are a vessel in bringing the things that God really desires to bring in these formative years to your children. There's a verse for this point to this lesson that I wanted to bring to you, and it's 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 5. Now, your version might read a little bit differently, but I love this version that says, not that we are competent in ourselves, but our competence comes from God. So again, check yourself and check your heart if you're saying, there's no way that I could homeschool. There's no way that I can do that. There's no way that I have enough patience to do that. I would kill my child, right? So you're making it about you and your ability alone and forgetting about the powerful grace of God. So when I was able to surrender and say, okay, Lord, not my will, but yours. This is something that I know that you want for our family and let him work through me. Then it was like my ability stopped becoming my ability and became his ability. His strength became perfect in my weakness. And this is why I say it really has helped me grow in my faith, because I've seen him move in our lives in ways that I never imagined, especially through these days of homeschooling. So I'm in and of myself, I'm not capable, right, of doing all the right things, because I'm not perfect and I don't have it all. I don't have it all together, right? And I can admit that to myself. But because he is with me, it helps me to be able to be more successful than I ever imagined. God equips the called. And so when you have said yes to an assignment that God is calling you to, he will equip you. And again, it becomes more about his power working in you than it does you and your own power and your own ability. So practically, yes, algebra is easier to me now than it was when I was in high school. History is more interesting to me than it was when I was in high school. And if I just would have said no because I struggled in math in high school, or I didn't find science or history very interesting back when I was in high school, then I would have missed out. Okay, I would have missed out, because now as an adult, I don't know if it's just because my brain is built differently now. I have a different, expanded perspective as an adult. But those things have become fun to me. Those things have become very interesting for me to learn and teach to my children. And so don't cut yourself off, from this new almost like and this is what I'm saying, practically what I found is a newfound love and appreciation for facts, for science, for truth, and and I do feel smarter now. I do feel smarter than I ever did when I was in high school. So I have homeschooling to thank for that. This last lesson might be one of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it together through this, because now as I realize, like, I'm done with these years, it's a little bit of an emotional thing to be able to say, to say goodbye to these 11 years that have just helped me to grow so much closer to my children, and my faith, like I said, and just get to treasure everything about my kids. So lesson 3 is that it taught me to celebrate my children the way that God designed them. Okay. Each one of your children, and you know this, if you have multiple children, and you understand completely and totally how different your children are from one another. And it's because they have God-given traits that make them different, that make them unique from one another. And I have 3 children, right? But I've homeschooled the 2 boys, and they're completely different from each other to the degree that I would have to pick different curriculums, right? Sometimes to help them to really excel in their education, because one's not like the other. And that's the beauty of homeschool. Sometimes you're tempted to compare your children to one another, or even to other people's children. But it's throughout this journey, like I said, that I really have learned how to appreciate not just how they learn and how their brain works, but also in how they feel, and how what makes their heart, um, beat a little bit faster, because you get to have all these different discussions with them about history and about things from the Bible, because we've had biblical studies and whatnot, and you get to really understand how God has designed them, and how He's going to use that in the world. That's been such a beautiful part of this journey, and this time that I've had to be able to appreciate these really unique giftings and abilities in each one of my children. I will never regret homeschooling, because of the fact that that's time that I know I would have never been able to get back. I would have never been able to get that time back if they were just in somebody else's presence for 8 hours a day. And I was not the one having these really in-depth conversations and moments with them to be able to learn and truly see how God has put them together, okay, intricately. And it brings me to the verse, which I'm sure you've heard, but it's Psalm 139 verse 14 that says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Each child, right, is handcrafted by God and with specific strengths, specific quirks, right? Specific abilities and how God will use that in the world in their future. You get to help mold that with this time, this valuable time that you have with them in homeschooling. And I've gotten to help take some of those things that I noticed God has uniquely put into them. And as they're getting ready to, as they're being launched out into the world, help them to be able to help remind them of those things. Remember, these are the things that God has put in you that He may want to use in the world. And so I get to help guide them now in their, kind of launching out into the adult world, helping remind them of how God has created them. That's that's invaluable, you guys. It's invaluable. And whether you homeschool or not, I want you to understand that for each and every one of you moms, you can take the time to be present enough in your journey of motherhood. It might take some reorganizing of your schedule and whatnot to make sure that you're spending good quality time with them, but you can do that as well. You can help them realize their God-given unique abilities and strengths and qualities so that you're able to, when they're ready to be launched out in the world, you're able to help guide them according to those gifts and those abilities that God has given them. You don't have to homeschool to do that. You just have more time when you're homeschooling to do that. In closing, these are the 3 lessons that I have learned in 11 years of homeschooling. That presence is more important than productivity. You are more capable than you believe, thanks to God's grace and His super on your natural. Number 3, that your kids are masterpieces in progress, and God has designed them uniquely to move and function in this world in a way that you get to help nurture. Whether you homeschool or not, like I said, I hope that you find this encouraging, that you find that these lessons will be applicable to you in your own life when you decide to really value the quality time that you have with your children during these formative years before they leave your home, before they go off to college or whatever it is that God has in store for them. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're homeschooling or not. These lessons are applicable for you as well. I hope this episode really encouraged you to see your motherhood journey as a discipleship journey, and one where God is shaping you just as much as He's shaping your kids. That's all I have for you today. If this was encouraging to you, please do share it with at least one mom, okay? Please do share it with at least one mom. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure that you join us again here on the Mama Disciple podcast. And remember, as always, holy stewardship is about managing well what belongs to God so that He can bless others through your obedience. Bye for now.